Nothing matters, and that is the best news you will ever hear. This is the liberating heart of a philosophy called optimistic nihilism. It finds profound freedom and joy, not in spite of the universe's cosmic indifference, but because of it. By the end of this exploration, you will have a new framework for living a lighter, more authentic, and deeply creative life. We will journey through stories that ask how a man condemned to eternal futility could be happy, and how a blank canvas holds more potential than a finished masterpiece. What kind of meaning feels most real to you when nothing is required? From a distance of 4 billion miles, Earth vanished into a single pixel of light. The Voyager 1 spacecraft, having completed its mission to the outer planets, turned its camera back toward home for one final photograph. What it captured was not a map of empires or a portrait of human achievement, but a pale blue dot suspended in a vast sunbeam, a mote of dust against the endless black. Astronomer Carl Sagan, reflecting on this image, described our world as a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. Here was every human who ever lived, every joy and sorrow, every triumph and war, every work of art and whispered prayer, all contained on that barely visible speck. The cosmic perspective is a humbling mirror. It shows us that from the universe's vantage point, our dramas are not center stage. Our anxieties about legacy, our desperate searches for a cosmic report card, our belief that we must be here for some monumental reason, all of it unfolds on a stage so small it can be erased by a thumb held at arm's length. This realization could feel like a cold plunge into despair. If we are so insignificant, does anything we do truly matter? But this is where the story turns and where optimistic nihilism begins. The cosmic perspective does not erase meaning, it purifies it. By stripping away the illusion of a grand, preordained script written by the universe itself, it removes an immense and invisible pressure. You are no longer failing a test you never signed up for. There is no celestial judge keeping score. This emptiness is not a void to be feared, but a blank canvas of staggering size. When no meaning is handed down from the stars, the meaning you choose to create becomes uniquely and authentically yours. It is no longer a performance for an absent audience, but a genuine expression. The love you cultivate in your relationships, the curiosity you pursue, the beauty you create or appreciate, the small kindness that eases another's day, none of these things are diminished by the cosmic scale. In fact, they are elevated. They glow brighter precisely because they are not mandated but chosen. They are fragile, local flames in the vast dark, and that makes them not pointless but profoundly precious. The pale blue dot story sets the stage for everything that follows. It asks us if this is our true context, not as the protagonists of the cosmos, but as temporary inhabitants of a tiny world. What story do we want to write upon it while we are here? The weight of a boulder can teach you more about freedom than any open sky. In ancient Greek myth, a clever king named Sisyphus enraged the gods with his trickery. His punishment was not a fiery pit or a cage of torment, but something far more ingeniously cruel. He was condemned to roll a massive stone up a steep mountain. Upon reaching the summit, every single time, the stone would roll back down to the valley under its own weight, and Sisyphus would have to walk down, take up his burden, and begin again. Forever, to the gods, this was the perfect symbol of a futile, pointless existence. A life of endless toil with no progress, no accomplishment, no finish line. It is the very definition of a meaningless task. Centuries later, a philosopher named Albert Camus looked at this ancient story and saw not a warning but a revelation. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus proposed a startling idea. He said we must imagine Sisyphus happy. How could anyone be happy in such a circumstance? The answer lies in a single, powerful word: absurd. For Camus, the absurd is the confrontation between our human need for meaning, order, and reason, and the universe's silent, total indifference to those needs. We cry out for purpose and the cosmos answers with a void. This tension is the absurd condition of human life. Sisyphus's punishment is the perfect metaphor for it, a task with no point repeated for eternity. But Camus argues that Sisyphus's freedom and happiness begin the moment he fully accepts this reality. When he stops raging against the gods, stops hoping for a different outcome, and embraces the truth of his situation. In that acceptance, everything changes. The struggle itself becomes his purpose. The muscle and grit required to push the stone, the rhythm of his breath, the texture of the rock against his hands, the view from the hill on each ascent, these become his world. His victory is not in reaching the top, but in owning every step of the climb. He is the master of his own moments, not a slave to a pointless conclusion. This is where the myth stops being ancient and becomes urgently modern. Your life is not an eternal punishment, but it is filled with your own boulders. The repetitive tasks of your work, the ongoing effort required in relationships, the personal goals that seem to slip away just as you near them, the daily maintenance of a body and a home. We often push these boulders up the hill while desperately looking for the summit, for that final payoff where everything will be settled and meaningful. We think, when I get that promotion, when I find the perfect partner, when I finally lose the weight, then my life will have meaning. But Camus, through Sisyphus, suggests this is where we suffer. We chain our joy to an outcome the universe never promised. Optimistic nihilism takes this a step further. It says the hill has no summit at all. There is no cosmic finish line. And that is not a tragedy, it is an invitation. When you release the demand for a final, permanent payoff, you are free to find the value in the pushing itself. The satisfaction in a job well done, even if there is more work tomorrow. The warmth in a simple conversation, not just the milestone of an anniversary. The pleasure in the act of creating, not just the applause at the end. Your boulder is not your enemy, it is your task, and in choosing to engage with it fully, to find the artistry in the effort, you defy the absurd. You declare that your meaning is not given by the gods or the cosmos, it is woven into the fabric of your daily struggle. Sisyphus, smiling as he walks down to begin again, is the portrait of a man who has conquered his own despair by no longer expecting the world to save him from it. A cherry blossom does not weep as it falls from the branch. It drifts on a spring breeze in a final, silent dance, a fleeting spectacle of pink against a clear blue sky. In Japan, this scene evokes a specific, cherished feeling known as mono no aware. It is not a simple sadness nor a straightforward joy. It is a gentle, bittersweet awareness of the transience of all things, a quiet ache of appreciation for beauty precisely because it cannot last. The term translates roughly to the pathos of things, or a sensitivity to ephemera. It is the deep feeling you get watching autumn leaves turn fiery and then let go, hearing the last notes of a beautiful song fade into silence, or feeling the warmth of a campfire as the logs crumble into embers. Mono no aware recognizes that the temporary nature of an experience is not a flaw, but the very source of its emotional power and its meaning. If the cherry blossoms bloomed forever, they would become background scenery. It is their brief, glorious peak and inevitable fall that draws people to picnic beneath them, to celebrate their existence with full presence. This aesthetic principle turns the central anxiety of nihilism, the fact that nothing lasts, into a profound source of beauty. It aligns perfectly with the heart of optimistic nihilism, not by denying impermanence, but by embracing it as the canvas upon which our most poignant moments are painted. Think of a sand mandala, meticulously crafted by Buddhist monks over days with colored grains of sand. It is a stunning, intricate work of art, a symbol of the universe. And then, in a ceremonial act, it is swept away. The destruction is not an act of disrespect, but the completion of the artwork. The meaning was never in its permanence, but in the care of its creation and the lesson of its dissolution. Our own lives are infused with mono no aware. The childhood of your kids, a phase that feels endless while you are in it, but one day you turn around and the toys are gone. A perfect, lazy afternoon with a dear friend, conversations that feel timeless, yet the sun eventually sets and the visit ends. The bittersweet pride of watching someone you mentored soar in their own career, moving beyond your guidance. These moments carry a soft ache because they are passing, but that ache is the fingerprint of their value. It is the proof that they mattered. Optimistic nihilism, through this lens, asks us to stop fighting the current of time and instead learn to float in it. When you release the desperate hope for things to stay the same, for achievements to be permanent monuments, you open yourself to the exquisite beauty of the now. You stop taking photographs of a sunset to capture it forever, and instead you just watch, fully immersed in the shifting colors, knowing this particular arrangement of light will never happen again. That knowledge does not spoil the moment, it sanctifies it. Your life is not a statue meant to endure for millennia. It is more like a bonfire, bright and warm and crackling with energy, destined to eventually burn down to ashes. Mono Nowhere teaches us that the fire's meaning is not in the cold ashes that remain, but in the light and heat it gave while it burned. It invites you to stop lamenting the ashes and instead to tend your flame with gratitude, to watch its colors dance, and to appreciate the warmth it offers to others precisely because you know and accept that one day it will go out. A man stripped of everything, even his name, discovered a freedom no God could take. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist, entered the Nazi concentration camps with a manuscript sewn into the lining of his coat, the work of his life. He left the camps having lost that manuscript, his family, and nearly his own life, but he carried out something far more profound, a theory forged in the absolute crucible of meaninglessness. In the face of systematic horror designed to reduce human beings to numbers, to brute survival, Frankl made a startling observation. Those who were most likely to endure the starvation, disease, and despair were not necessarily the physically strongest. They were those who held onto a reason to live. For one man, it was the love for a child waiting somewhere beyond the barbed wire. For another, it was the unfinished scientific work only he could complete. For Frankl himself, it was the future book he needed to write, reconstructing the lost manuscript from memory. He realized that even when every external source of meaning, family, career, home, and dignity is violently ripped away, one final human freedom remains, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is the bedrock of what he later called tragic optimism. It is not a naive belief that everything happens for a reason or that suffering is good. It is the hard-won understanding that meaning can be found not in spite of suffering, but through our response to it. The potential to transform personal tragedy into a triumph of the human spirit, to turn suffering into a meaningful achievement by the stance we take. Frankl's story is the ultimate stress test for any philosophy of meaning. If a framework for living only works in comfort and safety, it is a luxury, not a truth. Optimistic nihilism passes this test not by contradicting Frankl, but by extending his core insight into the cosmic arena. Frankl argued that meaning is not invented by us, but rather discovered in the world waiting to be fulfilled. Optimistic nihilism suggests a subtle but powerful shift. What if we are both the discoverers and the inventors? The universe provides the blank slate, the circumstances, often tragic and difficult, but the meaning we find in them is our creative, responsible act. The love for that distant child was always there in the prisoner's heart, yes, but the decision to let that love be his anchor, his reason to endure another day of brutality, that was his choice. That choice becomes his authorship. This connects directly to the freedom we've been exploring. If no cosmic script dictates that your suffering must teach you a lesson or build your character, then the meaning you forge from it is uniquely and authentically yours. It is not a consolation prize from a cruel universe, it is a declaration of your own values. One person may find meaning in survival itself, to bear witness. Another may find it in small acts of kindness shared between prisoners, preserving a shred of humanity. Another may find it in a silent, inner defiance. None of these are the correct answer because there is no cosmic grader. Each is a powerful, chosen response to an unchosen reality. This makes our choices, especially in adversity, incredibly powerful. They are not just reactions, they are the bricks with which we build a life of meaning on a foundation of uncertainty. Frankl's tragic optimism shows us that the weight of that responsibility is not a burden, but the very substance of our dignity. When nothing is guaranteed, every act of courage, every decision to be kind, every moment of choosing hope over despair becomes a profound act of creation. You are writing the story on the pale blue dot, pushing your boulder with purpose, appreciating the fleeting blossom. And now, through Frankl's eyes, you see that even in the deepest valley, you hold the pen. A scholar traveled a great distance to meet a renowned Zen master. He arrived with a mind full of questions, theories, and the weight of his own considerable learning. As the master began to pour tea for his guest, he kept pouring, even after the cup was full. The scholar watched in alarm as the tea overflowed, spilling across the table. He cried out, "Stop, the cup is full, it can hold no more." The master set the pot down and said, "Exactly, like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This story is not about rejecting knowledge, but about the posture of learning. The scholar's mind was so crowded with what he already believed to be true that there was no space for a new understanding to enter. His cup was overflowing with the very thing he thought would bring him wisdom, and it became the barrier to it. This is the precise mental shift at the core of optimistic nihilism. We spend so much of our lives with minds full to the brim with a single, heavy assumption: the idea that for life to be worthwhile, it must have a grand, external, pre-packaged meaning handed to us. We are told to seek our purpose as if it is a lost key, a cosmic assignment waiting to be discovered. We fill our cup with this search, with the anxiety of getting the answer wrong, with the pressure to build a monument that will justify our existence in the universe's eyes. And just like the scholar, we become so full of this one idea that nothing new can get in. The master's instruction is to empty the cup. In our context, this means to consciously set down the assumption that life needs a cosmic justification to be valid. It is the act of pouring out the old, stagnant tea of external validation to make space. This emptiness can feel terrifying at first. We might worry, if I let go of the idea that my life must have a grand meaning, what is left? Will I just float away into apathy? But the parable shows us that emptiness is not the end point. It is the essential starting condition for receiving anything of value. An empty cup is not a symbol of lack, but of potential. It is a space of readiness. Once you have emptied yourself of the heavy, singular demand for universal purpose, what floods into that space? First, curiosity. You are no longer searching for the one right answer, so you are free to ask genuine questions, to explore ideas and experiences for the sheer interest of them, not because they are supposed to lead you to the meaning of life. Next, play. Without the pressure of a cosmic final exam, you can engage with the world experimentally. You can try new things, create just for the joy of it, and approach challenges with the lightness of someone who is not betting their entire worth on the outcome. Finally, and most importantly, the space allows for the creation of personal values. Values are not the same as a single, grand purpose. They are your chosen compass points, the qualities you decide to orient your life around, like kindness, creativity, integrity, or growth. You are not discovering them etched in the stars. You are selecting and cultivating them because they resonate with you. They become the tea you choose to pour into your own cup. This is the profound mental shift. You move from being a frantic archaeologist, digging for a buried treasure of meaning you were promised is there, to being an artist in a well-lit studio with blank canvases and all the paints. The emptiness of the studio is not a problem, it is the gift. It is the open space where your genuine creation can begin. So the next time you feel the weight of that old question, what is the meaning of it all? Picture the overflowing cup. The relief is not in finding a better answer to pour in, but in the gentle, courageous act of setting the cup down and emptying it, creating a quiet space where your own life, in all its curious, playful, and deeply personal texture, can finally begin to flow in. The final test of a meaningful life is not a score, but a question. In a clever and profound television series called The Good Place, a young woman named Elena Shellstrop wakes up after her death to find herself in a pristine, frozen yogurt-filled neighborhood called The Good Place. She is greeted by a celestial being named Michael, who informs her she has earned her spot in this heaven-like afterlife through a lifetime of good deeds and moral actions. There is just one enormous problem. Elena knows she does not belong. She was not a good person on earth. She was selfish, manipulative, and often unkind. She quickly realizes a cosmic bureaucratic error has sent her to the wrong place. Terrified of being discovered and sent to the bad place, she decides to fake it. She enlists the help of her assigned soulmate, a moral philosophy professor named Chidi, to secretly teach her how to be good. The show's central premise is a brilliant setup for exploring the very questions we have been asking. How is moral worth calculated? Is it a final tally of good deeds versus bad ones, a cosmic ledger that determines our eternal fate? The Good Place presents this system literally. In the show's universe, every human action on Earth is assigned positive or negative points by an all-knowing judge. Helping an old lady cross the street might earn you a few hundred points. Telling a lie might cost you a few dozen. Your final point total at death is your only ticket into the good place. And as Elena and her friends soon discover, this system is catastrophically broken. It has become so complex and nitpicky that virtually no one has gotten into the good place in over 500 years. A man who donated millions to charity loses points because his money was invested in a company with a poor environmental record. A woman who devoted her life to humanitarian work is penalized because her activism caused anxiety for her neighbors. The system is so focused on the unintended ripple effects of every action that genuine intent and effort are completely lost. The show reveals that trying to earn your way into a cosmic reward by following a rulebook is an impossible, self-defeating game. You can never be sure of all the consequences, and you become paralyzed, not motivated by the fear of losing points. This is where the story pivots from a comedy about ethics to a powerful illustration of optimistic nihilism's heart. The characters do not fix the point system. They abandon the entire idea of a cosmic scorecard as the measure of a life. Instead, they argue for something far more radical and human. They propose that what makes a person good is not a final, perfect score, but the conscious, ongoing effort to improve. It is the choice to keep trying, to learn from your mistakes, to care about the impact you have on others, even when you know you will never be flawless. Elena, who started as a fraud, becomes genuinely good not because she is chasing a heavenly reward, but because she has developed real empathy and love for her friends. She wants to be better for them and for herself. This is the ethical dimension of a universe without divine judgment. If no one is keeping an eternal tally, why be good at all? The Good Place answers that when you remove the threat of punishment and the lure of a reward, morality becomes more authentic, not less. Your actions are no longer a transaction, a deposit into your afterlife bank account. They become an expression of your values. You are kind because you believe in kindness. You help others because you recognize their inherent worth, not because you are earning points. You try to be better because the process of growth itself is meaningful, not because it guarantees you a spot on a cosmic leaderboard. This is the messy, beautiful, and deeply human project that replaces the search for a final verdict. Your life is not a test to be passed or failed. It is a work in progress, a constant becoming. The show's final, beautiful solution involves not a perfected heaven, but giving souls the freedom to choose when they are done, to walk through a door and peacefully become part of the universe again when their journey feels complete. It suggests that a meaningful existence is not an eternal, static reward, but a finite story where the meaning is woven into every chapter of struggle, connection, and growth. The Good Place, in its witty and warm way, shows us that the pressure is off. You are not being graded, so you are free to write your story with genuine care, to push your boulder not toward a summit, but toward the people beside you, and to find that the effort itself was the whole glorious point. A blank canvas is a field of pure, terrifying possibility. It sits on the easel, white and silent, holding absolutely nothing. For an artist, this moment before the first stroke can be paralyzing. The emptiness seems to whisper of all the ways it could be ruined, all the masterpieces that could fail to materialize, all the expectations it will never meet. This is the same visceral anxiety that the idea of a meaningless universe can trigger. The cosmos presents us with a vast, empty canvas of time and space, and we stand before it, brush in hand, terrified that we will paint something insignificant, something wrong, something that does not justify the enormity of the blankness. We freeze, waiting for instructions that never come, hoping for a template from on high. But the seasoned artist knows a secret. That intimidating emptiness is not a verdict, it is an invitation. The blank canvas holds no rules. There is no committee in the sky that will reject it for using the wrong shade of blue. There is no predetermined image it is supposed to become. Its total lack of pre-existing meaning is its greatest gift. It is freedom solidified. With a deep breath, the artist makes the first mark. Maybe it is a bold slash of color, maybe a tentative, searching line. That first act is a declaration of sovereignty. It says, "I am here and I will begin." From that point, every subsequent choice, every blend of pigment, every shape and shadow, flows from the artist's own vision, curiosity, and feeling. The painting becomes a record of a series of authentic decisions, not the fulfillment of an external assignment. Your life is that canvas. The optimistic nihilist is simply the person who has decided to stop staring at the terrifying void and instead to relish the pristine potential of the empty space. They pick up the brush. What is the brush? It is your agency, your daily choices, your attention, and your actions. The paint is your time, your energy, your love, and your creativity. When you internalize that there is no cosmic standard of correctness, the pressure to paint a universally approved masterpiece evaporates. You are free to paint in a style that feels true to you. Perhaps your life canvas is a detailed, realistic portrait of deep connections and family. Perhaps it is a wild, abstract explosion of travel and novel experiences. Maybe it is a minimalist series of quiet, contemplative moments. One is not more spiritually valid than the other. The value is not in the genre, but in the authenticity of the execution. This mindset is the engine of genuine innovation and self-expression. When you're not trying to replicate an old master's work or win a prize decided by others, you can invent entirely new techniques. You can mix colors no one has thought to combine. In life, this translates to building a career path that does not follow a traditional ladder, creating a family structure that looks unique to you, or pursuing a form of creativity or service that has no established name. You are driven by intrinsic passion and curiosity, not by a sense of obligation to a prefabricated script. The painting of your life will have smudges and sections you wish you could redo. That is part of the work. A canvas where every stroke is perfect is often a sterile one. The corrections, the layers painted over old mistakes, the unexpected blends that create a new beautiful color, these are the textures that give the work depth and character. They are not failures against a divine standard, they are evidence of learning and growth. So the question shifts from what is the meaning of life to what do I want to create with it. The canvas is blank, the studio is quiet, and the brushes are clean. The only thing left to do is to begin. A personal mythology is not found in ancient texts but written in the quiet choices of your everyday life. We have wandered through stories of cosmic perspective and eternal tasks, of fleeting blossoms and blank canvases. Each one points to the same liberating truth, that when we stop searching for a meaning authored by the universe, we gain the authority to write our own. This is not a descent into selfishness, but an ascent into responsibility. The final, beautiful step is to move from understanding this idea to living it, to become the active author of your own meaningful narrative. Think of it as building your personal mythology. A mythology is not a lie. It is a framework of stories and symbols that gives a culture its sense of purpose and identity. Your personal mythology serves the same function, but for one person, you. It is the evolving story you tell yourself about what matters, why you strive, and who you are becoming. Its power comes from the fact that you are its sole creator and its primary believer. So how do you start building it? The foundation is not a single grand purpose, but a set of core values. Values are your internal compass points, the qualities you decide to orient your life around. They are not what you think you should care about because society or family says so. They are what actually lights you up, what brings you a deep sense of fulfillment, connection, or peace. To identify them, ask yourself reflective questions. When have you felt most authentically yourself, most fully engaged? What activities make you lose track of time? What kind of actions, when you look back on them, make you feel a quiet pride? The answers often point to values like creativity, curiosity, integrity, compassion, growth, or autonomy. Write them down. These are the central themes of your mythology. With these themes in hand, you begin to craft the rituals and chapters of your story. A ritual is simply a repeated action infused with personal meaning. It does not need to be spiritual or grandiose. It could be the weekly phone call to a faraway friend that reinforces your value of connection. It could be the morning walk where you practice the value of presence. It could be dedicating an hour every Sunday to a creative hobby, honoring your value of play. These rituals are the daily paragraphs in your myth, the small, consistent actions that breathe life into your abstract values. Next, set self-defined goals. These are not the goals you inherited, like climb the corporate ladder or buy the big house, unless those genuinely align with your core values. A self-defined goal emerges from your own mythology. If curiosity is a core value, a goal might be to learn a new language or skill, not for a resume, but for the sheer joy of understanding. If compassion is central, a goal might be to volunteer regularly for a cause that moves you. The goal is not the end point that finally makes you happy. It is a direction you choose to walk in because the walking itself feels meaningful. Finally, identify your meaning projects. These are ongoing endeavors that have no external finish line but provide a deep sense of engagement. They are your personal versions of tending a garden, writing a novel, building a community, or mastering a craft. A meaning project could be raising children with intention, not to mold them into a specific shape, but to nurture their own unique selves. It could be the project of becoming a better listener, or of cultivating a small patch of wilderness in your backyard. The project is the vehicle through which your values are expressed and enacted over time. Remember, this is an ongoing, creative process. You are both the author and the protagonist of this story, and you have the freedom to revise the plot. A value that felt central 5 years ago might soften, making space for a new one. A goal might change direction. A ritual might evolve. That is not failure, it is the story deepening. Your personal mythology is not a rigid doctrine to be defended, but a living narrative to be curated. It asks only that you pay attention, that you choose with intention, and that you find the courage to treat your own life as the most important creative project you will ever get to work on. The universe provides the blank page, but you hold the pen. What will you write today? The journey from that pale blue dot to this present moment has been a map of liberation. We started by seeing our world from the cosmic distance, realizing no divine report card awaits us. We walked with Sisyphus and found freedom not in reaching the summit, but in the conscious embrace of the climb itself. We felt the poignant beauty of the cherry blossom, understanding that impermanence is what makes moments sacred. We stood with Viktor Frankl in the darkest of places and witnessed the unbreakable human freedom to choose our stance. We learned to empty our cup, making space for our own values to grow. We saw the failure of cosmic scorekeeping in the good place and celebrated the messy, ongoing effort to be better. And we finally faced the blank canvas, that symbol of terrifying and glorious potential, and picked up the brush. All these threads weave together into a single, resilient tapestry. This is the heart of meaningful meaninglessness. It is not a cold, abstract philosophy of despair. It is a warm, practical invitation, an invitation to play because life is not a graded performance. An invitation to create because the universe left the studio empty for you. An invitation to connect deeply because our shared, fleeting time here is what makes kindness matter. And ultimately, an invitation to live with radical authenticity because you are no longer performing for a silent cosmos. You are conversing with your own soul. The universe didn't give you a script, so you get to write your own, and that is the most beautiful gift of all. I would love to hear what this sparks for you. In the comments, share one thing you would paint on your blank canvas or a personal meaning project you feel excited to begin. If you found this exploration valuable, consider subscribing for more journeys into ideas that help us live more thoughtful, engaged lives. Thank you for listening.